Hi everyone, I am Grayson the Bard, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak build video. Today I am going to be looking at my main weapon and favorite weapon in the entire series, the Hunting Horn. Specifically, today we're going to be looking at a Poison Hunting Horn build. Poison is one of my favorite statuses in the entire series of Monster Hunter, but it has a tendency to be also one of the most easily forgotten ones. It does not provide immediate, apparent benefit like Paralysis does, and it does not allow for huge damage numbers like Sleep or Blast. But with the right weapon, skill setup, support, and most importantly, against the right monster, Poison can really shine. So, before I get into the skill breakdown of this video, I do want to make a quick disclaimer, just to remind everybody that I am not building these sets to be meta. I don't have any issue with meta sets at all. If what you want is the fastest clear times and the most possible mathematical damage, great, awesome, I hope you have fun. But the purpose of these videos is to show off some more niche builds and playstyles that I've personally been having a lot of fun with. And with that out of the way, let's get into the armor set and skills. Let's start off with the weapon. At the time of recording, the single highest poison damage on a hunting horn is the Genie's Ocarina from the Chameleos tree, so that's what we're going to be using. In addition to the high poison, it also has a really respectable raw of 310, a level 2 slot, 2 level 1 slots, and a level 3 rampage decoration. The only real downside to this horn is its song selection with earplugs, wind pressure, and elemental attack boost, but against monsters who are weak to poison, have loud roars, and do wind pressure things like Kushala Daora here. I know that's a very specific example, and it's really the only monster that ticks all three boxes. What are you gonna do? Those songs can really put in work. Now for the rest of the gear, we have the Snowshear headgear for the head, Espinas muscle for the torso, Grand Mizuha sleeves for the arms, Anjanath coil for the waist, Grand Mizuha leg wrap for the legs, and our talisman, which is admittedly going to be a little bit of a sticking point for this build, as I ended up getting a pretty good one that some people might not have access to yet. With this build, I am currently using a Rarity 10 Attack Boost level 3 talisman with a level 3 and a level 1 slot. Now this opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of opening up just the pure damage potential that this build can do, but as long as you have a talisman that has any of the other skills that I'm going to be showing on it, as well as some decent slottage, you'll be able to make this build as is, or be able to improve on it a little bit. The level 3 slot only is kind of a hindrance on this talisman, but it still opens up a lot of doors. With all those armor pieces, and without any decorations, we are already sitting at Attack Boost 7, Poison Attack 3, Chameleos Blessing 3, Evade Window 2, Part Breaker 2, Peak Performance 1, Stamina Thief 1, and Foray 1, as well as one level of Grinder S, which I didn't include in the capture footage of this video. My bad. Now, those 7 levels of attack boost alone make this build worth running, but what really puts it above and beyond are the levels of Chameleos Blessing and the level of Foray. The first 2 levels of Chameleos Blessing really don't add anything exciting to the build, with level 1 sometimes increasing the effect of Spirit Birds, which is nice but inconsequential, and level 2 negating minor and major wind pressure, which is good against Kushala but not the main focus. Level 3, however, extends the duration of poison's effect on monsters, which means you get more ticks of damage as the poison continues to last, where it would have normally fallen off. This is especially good on monsters like Kushala Daora, Damio Hermitower, Tobi Kadachi, all of which have very high weakness to poison, making it so you're getting more of that poison uptime as much as possible, which comes in with Foray. Foray is a really interesting skill. Every time a monster is poisoned, paralyzed, or afflicted by an elemental blight from one of the elemental beetles around the map, you get an increase to your attack power, and at later levels an increase to your affinity as well. At level 1, you get a flat plus 10 to your attack, which is really solid. At level 2, you get that plus 10 and an additional 10% affinity, which is the same thing as critical hit chance. Then at level 3, the attack boost increases to plus 15, and the affinity increases to plus 20%. Now, for purposes of this build, we are going to be keeping Foray at level 1. Reason for that is because Hunting Horn really doesn't care too much about critical hit chance because a lot of its damage comes from its shockwave attacks, which cannot crit. Additionally, as far as I'm aware, there are currently no Foray decorations in the game, so you can't gem in the other 2 levels, you have to get them from armor pieces. I was trying to find a way to make that work and not give up too much of this build, but unfortunately I was not able to really make that happen. And the bump from plus 10 attack to plus 15 attack isn't really enough to justify it for me. Now, a small caveat to that is that at the time of recording, we are currently just a little bit away from Title Update 1 being released, which is likely to add more new decorations for some of the more unique skills like Bloodright, Foray, and others that I won't name here. If they do add Foray decorations, I will probably update this build a little bit to get that Foray level 3 just to see how it plays, and if that is the case, I will do an update to this video. But for now, we're going to stick with level 1. Alright, so with decorations, we are looking at a very, very sizable and very aggressive skill list. This is probably one of the most attack-focused sets I make. I like to play a little more defensively, and I like my comfort skills, but this is mostly do the hurt focused. We have Attack Boost 7 from, again, just the armor, which is still wild to me. Agitator 3, Poison Attack 3, Evade Extender 3, Heartbreaker 3, Speed Sharpening 3, Chameleos Blessing, Handicraft, Evade Window 2, and then a smattering of level 1 skills that are just kind of incidental and not necessarily intended to be there, aside from, of course, Foray and Horn Maestro, which are going to be key components of this set. They just live a little lower on the skill list because they're only level 1. I have the specific decorations that I used for this build up on the screen, and I'm going to leave them up for a little bit so y'all can take a look at them. But one thing that I do want to stress, and this is something that I really like to try and do with my builds, is that there is a lot of room for customization here. I have been cursed by the jump gods and refuse to take Evade Extender 3 off of my sets. I love it, I need it. One day I know I'm going to have to stop leaning on that crutch, but today is not that day. But I definitely recognize that of the skills on there, Evade Extender is one of the ones that could be easily swapped out for something else that you might find a little bit more comfortable, or to squeeze a little more attack in there. Some other ones that I think you could easily swap out without sacrificing too much of the build would be Agitator, which you could swap out for literally anything. Partbreaker, if you already feel like you're doing enough good part damage, and Speed Sharpening I feel like could go relatively easily. Handicraft, I like it too because it pushes us into Purple Sharpness a little bit, which is a very nice damage increase. But if you want to either go for more Handicraft or take that out if you don't think you need it, that could also go. Like I said, there is a lot of room for customization, and you can season this build however you want to. In terms of playstyle for the Hunting Horn, this build doesn't really shake things up too much. You're still going to be relying on your song performance shockwave attacks and things like Sonic Bloom and Earthshaker to deal a majority of your big damage. The only thing you really need to keep in mind is whenever the monster is not poisoned, you want to be prioritizing dealing physical hits with your horn as much as possible so that you can reapply poison as quickly as you can. Something that can help out with the poison application, especially if you're playing solo, is running 2 status dogs kitted out with poison weapons. They'll make it so that there is very little time, if any, that the monster is not suffering from poison. So the last thing that I'm really going to be talking about in detail is monster matchups. As I've mentioned a couple times now, and as you may be seeing from the footage in the background, this build absolutely destroys Kushala Daora. I almost feel sorry for the poor bastard, but then I remember how big of an asshole he was in previous games, and that all fades very quickly. With how weak he is to poison, with the Chameleos Blessing skill negating his wind pressure, and with the songs on the Chameleos Hunting Horn, Kushala pretty much just becomes your standard fight and doesn't bring anything special to the table. This is the perfect build if you need to farm Kushala Daora, and any other monster that has a really high weakness to poison, like Daimyo Hermitar and Tobi-Kadachi. That's this build's biggest upside, but also its biggest downside. There aren't too many other monsters that are super weak to poison, so you kind of have like a narrow window of when you can use this build effectively, versus when it's just kind of okay. But for those monsters where this weapon shines, it really shines. Especially with Tobi-Kadachi and Daimyo being relatively tough to fight anomaly monsters, this can help out a lot in making those fights a bit more manageable. Alright, and that's where I'm going to be wrapping up this video for today, which means it is time for the old YouTube song and dance. If you like this build and want to see more like it, leave a like on this video and tell me what you thought about it in the comments. I would love to hear, especially if you build something similar, what you kept the same, what you changed, what your thoughts are on the playstyle. I am always open to hearing what people do with these builds that I present, so please, please, please let me know if you build it and what you thought of it. My current plan is to do one of these build videos for each of the 14 weapons in the game, and unless things dramatically change with the introduction of Title Update 1, my current plan is to do Hammer next. I'm very excited. I've had this build kind of percolating since I first fought Garangolm, which might give you a little bit of an idea as to what I'm going to be building. But if you want to see that, or want to see any of my other build videos, please, please, please feel free to subscribe, and then you'll be able to know whenever I upload one, assuming YouTube decides not to bury things. But who can say? That's out of my control. But either way, happy hunting to everyone out there, and until next time, I'll see you next time.